So I am really digging Althusser. That's how I'm going to pronounce his name. And I'm getting more and more invested in the structuralism and post-structuralism. And of course, I have to dip my toes into postmodernism. But talking about Althusser's concepts, the concept of the reproduction of the condition of production. I don't know how this concept is properly called in English, so I'm just translating myself roughly. But this concept, I think, is so invaluable. It's just so useful because when you look at the economic relationships between the working class and the capitalists, the question of the reproduction of the conditions of production is glaringly obvious, and it's so obvious that we are being exploited because for many of us, we cannot even reproduce the conditions in which we are productive because we may not have enough resources for leisure time, for example. We may not have enough time. We may need to allocate time to do chores. The 8-hour workday isn't necessarily long for most jobs, and the 5 days a week work week is for many jobs unreasonable. Yet we are forced into this type of production, and not only do we lack resources that are economic, that are tangible, we're also lacking in mental resources because we may not have the capacity to take care of our other needs. For example, we may not have the time to do therapy, or we may not have the time to read, or we may not have the focus to read, or we may not have the emotional capacity to connect to other humans. And I can sit here all day just listing all of the things that we are incapable of properly doing under the current economic system, but I'm sure you all are acutely aware of all of the limitations that are imposed on us. Granted, many of these limitations will probably not be able to overcome because they're just human limitations. But there are so many conditions that we can't change, and they may stop being limiting. For example, shortening the work week, shortening the work day, restructuring schools, restructuring universities, any kind of educational institutions to serve the needs of the humans, and how it is done, how it may be done. There are so many utopian thinkers who thought about this, and I'm not going to try and say that there is one proven system that's going to work, but we all can join together and decide what it is that will serve us better. But we can see ultimately so many flaws with our inability to reproduce the conditions of production nowadays. And for this concept alone, I think Althusser is worth your time. And I am really looking forward to reading more, even though his style is incredibly convoluted, at least in the Russian translation. And I, of course, know that there are quite a few pieces of valid criticism, and I am willing to engage in those later. But for now, I just want to leave you with this concept, and if I look up the way it is properly named in English, I'll put it somewhere on the screen.